we decided that Cincinnati, since she grew up here and I've been coming here on and off for 20 years, that it might be worth doing. You could buy a house here, start a business, have a kid. We used to say you could have a kid, buy a business, or start a business or buy a house. In New York, you could probably do one of those things. And in a place like Cincinnati, you could probably do all three of those things.
Hi, this is Rodney Veal, and I'm the host of Rodney Veal's Inspired by Podcast. I'm super excited today because we have someone from Cincinnati in the Cincinnati area who's doing amazing things, not just in the restaurant world, but in the community at large. And I'm super excited. Mike Stankovich is the owner of Longfellow's and Mid-City Restaurant, and he's got an exciting story of a journey from Washington, D.C., by way of Brooklyn to Cincinnati and our culinary art scene here, and just super excited to talk to him about his journey and all things food and drink and hospitality and Southwest Ohio. And I love it when someone transplants themselves into Cincinnati and into Southwest Ohio and makes it happen. So Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's super, super cool. All right, Mike. So this is kind of that this is your life sort of scenario. And I just want to know, it's like one of the things I read in an article was the fact that you had this dream of being a park ranger that got kind of shot down. So I kind of want you to tell the story of like your early childhood ambition, which was really, really, really cool.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I grew up, being outside, playing outside, as we said, when I'm 47. So of the age when you could still go outside all day and explore your neighborhood. And at the time, there were still some woods outside in the suburbs of DC, and they're pretty much gone now, but would spend my time out there, and then weekends camping and fishing and that kind of thing. And so basically tried to figure out a way as a young person how to monetize basically my hobby at the time. And that was I think the only way my young brain thought that was possible. Nowadays, there's a million ways, with influencers and all these people that are out
doing whatever they do, which is
somehow making money, taking pictures of the Grand Canyon, but so I had a early aspiration to do that. And unfortunately, a guidance counselor at my high school told me that it was probably a waste of time because they don't make very much money.
Okay.
So I was a little, let down by that concept, but to me, I thought it was great because if you became a park ranger in the, in the national park system, you could work in Georgetown, DC, or you could work in Yosemite, and so to me, I saw it also kind of, I think, as a way out of my, where I grew up. And I guess I'm glad that didn't happen, but I think I'd still be happy if that had happened.
Yeah, if someone hadn't put I don't know. That's not gonna pay the bills as much as you would think.
So I guess the ironic part of that is I ended up choosing a career path for a short time where you make no money, which is being a musician. And
I know we're gonna talk about that. I mean,
sorry to bring it up, but
it's all good. I mean, it's like that's you're talking to a visual artist and a dancer here, so basically, my parents were doubly disappointed. I just kept the disappointments coming.
I think so I think that says a little bit more about me just kind of wanting to travel or get out. Get out's a strong word. It was fine, but see more of the planet with
the planet
with not having a ton of money at the time, So.
So I mean, back in the day, it was like you saw it as I love how you described it as a hobby, but it was like something you really loved and enjoy. You enjoy the outdoors, and so having someone tell you in probably a very sterile cinder block, counselor's office.
Yes.
Mike, that may not be the option. They don't make any money. That's pretty much, I think, the story of just about everyone that I think we've ever interviewed on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
always been that story of someone telling them you're not going to make any money at this, and so it's changed the direction of their careers. And so I'm kind of curious because you talked about music. So was music kind of like the parallel track? You love nature and you were doing music. So when did you start kicking into the music scene? Because that's a part of this.
So, in music, my dad was a musician and he dabbled in a band in the 60s. And so music was kind of always in my house, whether it be, records or there's an old guitar lying around. I also think I was encouraged by my parents to do like the band in elementary school. And so I tried cello for a year and then I got into percussion and I played in the percussion realm through up to high school. And another bad thing about the same high school with that guidance counselor was if you wanted to, I guess we were short on band kids. I don't know the logic, but if you wanted to progress into symphonic band, they made you had to do marching band as well.
Oh,
And nothing against marching band, but by the time I got into high school, I was playing in bands and in my friend's house, our basements, punk-esque bands and that kind of thing, rock and roll bands. And I didn't want to stay after school and miss playing in a band of my choosing in my friend's basement. So I had to quit band, and that was kind of a bummer as well. And so then that just pushed me more. I couldn't get the music fix in school anymore. That pushed me more into let's focus on being a real band. And so I had the time now and the energy we put it together in my high school band. We played around and spent 90% of our free time trying to get shows at local clubs. And at the time it was still, you had to go give them a demo. And they
wow.
had to see if you were like good enough. And then we'd always open some bad show, but would have a great time doing it. And so that spiraled into just pushing that further. And once high school got out, we, through a couple band changes and things, we were fortunate enough to become popular enough to where we could kind of tour the US, and we toured Europe a few times. And kind of, I think, just fortunate in the sense of in the punk scene that we were in, it was a very tight knit scene. And so anywhere you'd go, you would have a support, we played to 3 kids sometimes, but usually 300 to 500 people would show up. And that was a focus for, a full probably 6-7 years of my life. And you didn't really do it to make money. You just, like I said, you did it to travel and see other parts of the world in America. And so I was successful at that part of it. at it being my job, I was not successful or making money.
Well, yeah, as an income driver.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
My mom's like, "Is this going to drive your income?" That was her phrase a lot.
That is a great phrase.
I mean, she's, good old Charlie. She was always omnipresent in my life. And what's really funny, interesting about like traveling in the United States. So I'm sure you played Ohio. You had to have played Ohio. We're a music state. We're kind of into music.
We played Ohio. It's funny. I've lived here 9 years now, but in Cincinnati, we played the old Sudsy Malone's, which is kind of a famous place. And then Top Cats before it reopened, but we played Cleveland. And we played a place on the edge of Pennsylvania. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I always thought Ohio was a great place because like part of my rationale when I moved here, having toured through here is, you're 4 hours from Chicago, you're 4 hours from Detroit, 2 hours from Indianapolis, 2 hours from Columbus, 2 hours from Louisville. Like it's kind of a nice jumping off point to explore this part of the country. Unfortunately, I feel like sometimes bands skip Cincinnati because they're doing Columbus, Louisville, or Columbus, Indianapolis.
Yeah, should never fall asleep on Cincy in the music scene. I mean, that's what I say. I'm with you on that one, absolutely, because up here in Dayton, Dayton's the same way. It's like, don't fall asleep on Dayton. They're music people here. They are.
Yeah, the Dayton funk scene
absolutely
was huge. And not enough people know that, but
I know, and that's changing. That is changing. That's
it
changing.
is.
Because what's really cool about the state, like you said, that distance is that's what all the bands did as well, and all the funk bands and on Dayton, they were all a part of the marching bands in the Dayton Public
Oh,
Schools, so they would have
yeah.
Battle of the Bands. So I'm old enough to have like I think I was like they're like my dad's age, which is kind of this crazy thing that my dad knew who they were. I was like, oh, that's different. I'm like, that's real different. He knows
It's
the
neat
Ohio
though.
players.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can actually see them walking the streets, by the way. They will just be randomly at coffee shops and
I love
Dayton.
that. I
It's
love
pretty
it.
cool. But one of the things that was really cool. Let's talk about this because you have landed in Cincinnati, but the traveling Europe and traveling the country, how did it lead to the thing that you said that Binnigan's was like the job, which dates us because you're 47 and I'm 58. It's like when I mention Binnigan's to people, like everybody glazes over with nostalgia, but that's the start of this kind of this other pathway.
Yes.
Binnigan's.
So as previously mentioned, not making any money doing a band, I ended up. I've always advocated for restaurants. You know, just it was a way for me to make money while I was pursuing my artistic career, and the schedule lent itself to my touring schedule. So at first, it was I landed in a Bennigan's because I was working retail in a mall by my house at a
Mm.
store called Natural Wonders. I don't know if you remember. That'll date
Yes.
you too.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
sold rain sticks and new age CDs and things like that. But they were his older brother was managing the Bennigans and he was working there and they needed help one night. And I feel like a lot of people end up in the restaurant industry this way. But I basically got um, recruited on the spot to help them in a tight fix that night. And then I remember I made twice the amount of money I would make doing retail, at whatever minimum wage was at the time.
Yeah.
It's probably still the same, but
Feels that way.
um, so I respectfully quit the retail industry for good, and then ended up at Bennigan's. And Bennigan's just worked well for us. It was kind of the Wild West at the time. I have so many stories that are amazing and that are all borderline unbelievable, but it kind of sealed this thing for me of, well, I can do this and make enough money to support, my artistic career. And so it started that way. And then, traveling Europe, I think, to your point or question, was open my eyes to, well, Bennigan, Bennigan's and restaurants like it aren't really the mark of what good food and hospitality is. But, growing up in a suburb of DC and kind of only being exposed to that aspect of it, you don't really realize there's this whole, real culture out there in these neighborhood restaurants that feed people
Mm-hmm.
and take care of people. And it might sound a little grandiose, but I believe that is what kind of led me into choosing this as my full-time career. Just seeing the way that, oh, I got to go to work. I'm on my way in. I know the person working there. They know what I want to eat. I grab it, I go, and then I come back there in the afternoon and unwind and relax, and I like that aspect of
Wow. Yeah.
that style of dining. But so somewhere because of the music thing, I moved to Boston and
Okay.
I lived in Boston for a while, and that was a big move for me. That was culture shock. So by the time I moved to Boston, I'd been living in DC proper for a long time, and
Still pursuing this music and
still
this
still
just
still
doing it.
doing them. Yes, just playing music. Work. I had switched. I still wasn't at Bennigan's, but I worked in some other restaurants. But I still looked at it as just like a job, and had a music opportunity. Moved to Boston. Culture shock.
Yeah.
But landed on my feet, just could easily get another restaurant job, which is another reason I advocate for this industry. You can kind of go anywhere on the planet and find a job, and even find a few friends right off the bat. You know, if you move
Right.
somewhere in the dark, you can meet a couple people you probably are like-minded and hang out with them. But yeah, so then somewhere in Boston, I figured out that I wanted to do this for a living. It clicked with me that I was good at it. I liked it. The hours didn't bother me. And so I started pursuing some more serious management jobs to learn more aspects of the business, and just took a job that with some people, like a privately owned, family owned bar and restaurant with a bowling alley in it that was
What?
that
Oh,
but
well, I'm saying that what, but I know some spots in Dayton, Ohio, like that, which is,
yeah,
super. I was kind of cool. I mean, it's
it was really neat. And they took out three of the bowling lanes and put a stage in there, and so it was music as well, so it kind of clicked all the boxes for me. And so I ran that bar for a few years, and then just fell in love with it. It's hard to say, a lot of this job isn't for everyone, and for some reason it clicked with me and my schedule and likes. And then music kind of faded out, at least playing live faded out. I still play myself, but I don't play with a band or tour or anything. So
wow. Like so, I mean, that epiphany in Boston. I mean, that's an interesting moment because when I talk to people about like because the show we talk about our inspiration.
mhm.
Well, it wasn't. It just felt. Did it just feel right that this environment just like what I'm in this and it just feels like for me it felt right to be in a dance studio. I mean, I walked in the first day and I was like, this is yeah, I need to be here. I need to be moving.
I think so. I think, like I said, though, it took me a while to get to the point, but I think in the right circumstance, at the right time, in the right place, I was just like, man, I love this. It's hectic. It was just felt great. That specific bar too, I should point out, was very community involved, and
Mm-hmm.
um like 1% of their proceeds or 1% of their profits every year they would donate to a certain thing. And it was just very tied into the community of Jamaica Plain in Boston where I lived. And, they had a neighborhood Latin night on Saturday nights. They had drag shows. They had punk shows. They had all of these things. And I just that's more what clicked with me. I was like, this isn't just a bar where you come and get hammered.
Right.
It's
Right.
you can do that, but you can also come and see a show, or we did a ton of fundraisers and things like that. And so I think that is, to your point about the dance studio, that is where I was like, all right, this feels good. This is what I kind of want to pursue, that more of that sort of space than just here's some beers. So
Which is like says nothing wrong with that, but I mean,
oh yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely, absolutely. But to your point of like, it's like that.
mhm.
This feels right. And so, how? I mean, how did it? How did? Where did Boston take you? I'm kind of curious about Jamaica Plains. Was it's a cool place, but
So the best thing out of that was and it leads to me being in Cincinnati, is my wife left Cincinnati to go to school in Boston, and we met
okay,
there. And so that was 20 years ago, probably. So yeah, 19 to 20 years ago, but we met. And like I said, I'd moved to Boston to pursue it was kind of my last stab at professional music. And as soon as I moved there, the opportunity kind of dried up. And so I luckily had a good friend that lived in Boston as well. So I decided to stick it out and stay there, just because even though
okay,
moving from a place like DC to Boston is complete culture shock. And so for the first year, I wasn't sure. I was pretty miserable. And then somewhere in there too, I started liking, I think probably because of this job, I started liking Boston and seeing that it wasn't what it was for real. And Jamaica Plain was kind of a small, nice community, good food, less cranky neighbors than other parts of Boston. for, for the most part.
For the most part. For the most part. Oh yeah.
But after that job, I got involved with a person that I kind of regard as my restaurant mentor. I mean, that's kind of a strong word for selling beer, but he, we, I helped him reopen an old speakeasy in a part of Boston, and this was around the time of the cocktail renaissance, as they call it. So like
Oh wow.
2007, 2008.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that kind of opened up a new door, and he worked with a publicist. And so then I was getting some, interviews and magazine photo shoots and that kind of stuff, like not about me, but about our cocktails and our food. And so that was starting to teach me that kind of aspect of the business of, how do you promote your business outside of just being a community hub or a neighborhood place, and so
Yeah.
that was kind of fun. And with him, I was fortunate enough to open a few places with him, which then kind of taught me that aspect of the business, which is the hardest part of the business.
Oh wow.
Is
Opening is
opening up a place it's very intense and very expensive and very kind of time consuming. So that just pushed me further into the further down the path of I want to do this for myself someday, and being fortunate enough to have that experience using other people's money and resources, but also feeling great, very gracious and being put in a position of trust, etc. So
well, I mean, also too, I mean, restaurant industry, everybody hears about the startups are very difficult. It's a gamble. I mean, because folks are very particular about the places they patronize for the quality of food and the service and drinks, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, location, and I mean, but I could see that. I also see that's kind of fun. I mean,
it's very fun. If you got to be that, like I said, you got to have that mindset. It's just a ton of hours, very stressful, but it's also very rewarding. And I think a problem in our industry is that a lot of people, and where I consider myself very lucky or fortunate, was that I did have those opportunities because those opportunities kept growing after those first couple. And I don't know if I subconsciously put myself in the position to kind of work with people that were opening things, but it was a huge lesson in not only what to do, but what not to do. And I think a lot of people that open restaurants, unfortunately, and the reason the failure rate is high is because it does look fun to open a restaurant, and it does look, you get to decorate it and you get to do all these things, but a lot of people open restaurants that aren't fortunate enough to have the experience of the hard parts of it, dealing with City Hall, dealing with, in Cincinnati, where my first place was, we have to deal with the historic board. And it's not like those people are difficult to deal with, but it's
an added layer. I mean,
it's the non-fun part of it, and
right, that nobody tells you about until you actually encounter it.
Yeah, like getting your licensing and all of that stuff. That's not the fun stuff. And then just knowing kind of how to navigate that helps, or having had the experience of how to navigate that helped me immensely in opening. And also just learning how to save some money here and there, and what I could do myself or have to pay a contractor to do. So those, I consider myself very lucky in the beginning, and then at some point I think I focused more on getting that experience, and it's helped me immensely along the way. And it I'm grateful for that, and I would say anyone that is trying to do this, just try to get a job right when something's opening, and you'll see a lot more than you'll see just kind of waiting tables there or bartending there.
Oh, like to figure out a
Ob-
way to kind of
Obviously.
behind the scenes. And so,
Yeah.
so which I love. And so you met your wife in Boston, and now
Yeah.
you're gaining all this experience. And so Boston led to where? Did it lead directly to Brooklyn, or did it lead to someplace else and then come to Brooklyn
It
with
it led
Roberta's?
to it led to there, but because of my wife, not because of me. She worked in the fashion business, and
Ah,
I should say she now, just real quick, she now owns a nonprofit textile manufacturing company in Cincinnati that's called So Valley, that's doing very well. Just a little plug there, but
go for it. It's
sh-
like, hey, that's awesome.
yeah,
I think it's pretty cool.
yeah, they do a lot of sustainability classes, dyeing classes. It's not just quilt making; it's full on textile production, and so it's really
Oh, that's
cool.
amazing. That's
But
amazing.
in Boston, she worked in fashion for a company called Marc Jacobs, which is a fashion uh
Iconic
mo-
brand
by that,
mogul.
yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm
Iconic
I
brand.
the words when you say Marc Jacobs, I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I own my partner owns some of his cologne. So, so, so
so
which
so they
totally
offered
go
her
forward.
they offered her a promotion to go work in their office in Manhattan as a assistant buyer or a buyer or something. And so it was one of those kind of whirlwind deals where they were like, here's the promotion. You have a week to decide, or you have to
Wow.
be there in a week if you want it, but we're paying for you to move there, kind of thing. And so it was a little tough for me because I was trucking along in my own trajectory,
Yeah.
but wanted to support her, obviously, and you don't get paid to move to New York very often. So I was like, all right, we got to do this.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then,
absolutely.
so that's how we ended up there. And, I stayed behind for a month or so and tidied up my stuff. But in the long run, it was a great move for both of us. She excelled at her job. And then I was fortunate enough to, in a strange turn of events. So I ended up at Roberta's Pizza right when they were kind of blowing up. And if you haven't heard of Roberta's Pizza, they're now kind of all over the place and huge. But at the time, so the funny story is the same person, the drummer in my band who got me my first job at Bennigan's
Back in the day.
back in 1995 or 94 had moved when I moved to Boston. He had moved to New York, and he was the director of operations for the burgeoning Roberta's Pizza restaurant. And so when I landed in New York, I was like, hey, man, I just thought he was going to hook me up with a job till I got settled. But he was basically saying that Roberta's had just got their first 2-star New York Times review, which is a big deal. And
No,
they were
very big deal.
blowing up overnight. And so after working there for a little bit, they kind of created the cocktail. I don't know what they call it. They already had like a wine steward, a wine director, and they were looking for someone kind of to do their cocktail program. So I kind of came on as their beverage manager, I guess.
Okay.
And that was a crazy opportunity, just kind of showing up right in New York and then landing this job of this restaurant that was in the process of exploding overnight because of this Times review. And, again, working directly with the owners and seeing how they were navigating this overnight success and learning. And it taught me a ton, and it was very stressful, but worth it. So I was very lucky there, but also, again, you can go anywhere and get a job in a restaurant. So
And it can lead to things you never know. I mean, which
yep.
is, well, it's what I love about that is like how you describe it, Mike, is that you're eager and you're not. I guess I'm gonna because we've just met and I just get the sense that you're just kind of like, okay, that you're it's a challenge. Okay, but you're not gonna. It doesn't seem to be where most people would be a deterrent. It would be like a, you know,
I don't like to
move.
sit still.
Okay.
So I think that helps me a lot. I need a job. Like my family makes fun of me when we are on a trip or something. Like I have to do something like I'm cooking constantly or I can't relax really, which is a bad thing, but I've accepted it, so it's okay.
No, I can totally empathize with that. I mean, my mom is like, "Could you please stop working?" I'm like,
Yeah.
all I
Just
hear is, "You're going here, you're going there, you're doing this, you're doing that." I said, "Well, mom, this is what I'm into."
just
I'm
take
like,
she's just looking out for you. Just take a break. Just
"Yeah, I do, I do. I find those moments, which is usually in a restaurant because that's what
what?
friends. You meet friends and family, and you're.
Yeah.
I believe in the conversations over bread and breaking bread. That's just my philosophy in life. It's like, you know
I
what?
love that.
Yeah, so I think that's why I was so when Nadia, our newest producer, said he need to talk to Mike. He's got these cool places in Cincy, which I'm excited to go. I was supposed to go to this weekend. I was going to go to Longfellow's this weekend, but we got
The
a hurricane.
storm.
We
Yeah.
got the storm. Helene ruined my weekend. Had no power, so
Oh man.
sucked
Yeah,
to no end.
that is not fun.
Not fun
I
at all. So
I guess it could be worse, but
yeah,
still.
absolutely. But I just, I will make a trek in, and
Hey,
so
we'd love to have you.
I'm looking forward to it. I really genuinely believe in that. I really do. As a matter of fact, I think of somebody who's like a friend who's texted me this morning saying, "You want to meet up for lunch tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Let's go to Tony and Pete's, which is a killer sandwich shop in Dayton, by the way. It's like,
I know both of the owners. They're great.
do you
Um,
really? I
yeah,
love them. They're pretty
um,
cool.
she Kathleen, before they moved up there, we were talking about maybe working together, but then she hit me up one day and was like, "No, we're going to open a sandwich, going to a sandwich shop, going to Dayton to open a sandwich shop." And I see their videos pop up on Instagram, and they do a very good job.
Oh, they really do.
I've not
It,
I need to
yeah,
eat there. I've not eaten there yet.
you haven't eaten there. Oh my god.
No.
If you come up, knock on our door. We're literally like 2 blocks away.
All
You know.
right.
So we'll gladly go over and go and go have a sandwich and chat. I mean, no, seriously. I mean, the whole station goes to Tony and Pete's
Yeah.
TVs. It's like it's a thing. It's like that is like our thing. Best sandwiches in Dayton. That's what Mike, our producer, says. Yeah, it is. It's only I'm not a fan of bread because of many things, and so that sandwich bread is kicking it for me. So it's
Nice.
like,
Nice.
yeah. So I love that there's a Dayton connection. I love this, and
Yeah.
so this whole notion of you're in this whirlwind with Roberta's. I mean, it's blowing up. I mean, for the foodies who are listening to this will know. They know those in the know, but those who don't know, it's like that's. I think this kind of notion in America at that time was the shift towards better quality food, better quality dining experiences, not about a hierarchy. It's about a feeling and a vibe, the sense that you go into a place that you feel comfortable.
Right.
And so what was it like to be in the midst of a storm of this kind of cultural shift and an organization that was really kind of like one of the in the forefront in essence? I mean,
Yeah. It's interesting because I think with the advent of kind of food television, there was an early part there where there was this, everybody, this chef thing, and everyone wants to be a chef, and there's all these chefs, and chef for the first time in a long time, chef-driven restaurants were coming out. You had, and especially in New York, but all over the world. But I think your point's a good one. Around that time, you had like the Bourdain kind of phenomenon happening, and
mm-hmm.
him trying to advocate for more of culture and travel and places to be. And it's not just him, it's other people, but it was interesting. What I liked about Roberta's was sometimes it was a negative, but for the most part, it was a positive where we did have a chef, Chef Carlo, and a few other chefs at the time, and they were great, but it wasn't Roberta's was Roberta's. It wasn't chef so and so. It wasn't chef this person.
Right.
There was we had a rooftop garden, we had the bar, we had the wine, we had the food, we had the staff, we had parties that we threw, and all of those things kind of made the place what it was. And it was just, again, just furthered the thing of this the walls here, the building. It's more important than who owns it or who runs it, and it's about how you feel when you go there. And so I think Roberta's just kind of showed me what could happen, because they did a lot. They threw these huge parties. They had a radio station in the restaurant, Heritage Radio Network.
Wow, that's so cool.
um
I
and
love it.
they did what were they did food podcasts and drink podcasts. And so it was just this kind of crazy thing that I think probably could have only worked at a moment in time, or been successful in a moment in time, and then through a lot of their hard work and a lot of their employees' hard work, it paid off and it blew up. And the bad news, I think, is my time ended there because it kind of got too big for its britches, I guess, a little bit. And it just kind of became, I don't know, I don't want to disparage it too much. Like it's still a great thing and a great place, and the people are still good. It just, like, kind of money got in the way of a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
They found fame and fortune real fast, and I think that hurt the business for a couple of years there, and then it kind of bounced back. They found their footing
Right.
again. But
Because attention can
yeah, I mean, they
undue attention, like a lot of it, intensity can alter and change
sure.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly that. And that, again, I'm just sitting there basically the whole time taking notes, learning,
Oh yeah. What?
what's going
Oh,
on, observing. And but it was a life lesson that you couldn't have paid for. I got,
absolutely.
so it
It,
was beneficial.
I'm Bonnie Miles, Membership Coordinator of CET. Thank you for listening to Rodney Veal's Inspired By. This podcast is a production of CET and ThinkTV, two local PBS stations. As PBS stations, the work we do online, on air, and in the community is supported by listeners like you. If you're enjoying the show and would like to support our work, please consider becoming a member at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org. Plus, when you sign up to donate at least $5 a month, you'll get access to special members-only streaming videos on the PBS app through Passport. Learn more at cetconnect.org or thinktv.org.
If you're enjoying this conversation, The Art Show, also hosted by Rodney Veal, is available to stream anytime from anywhere on YouTube or the PBS app.
we talked about the kind of the glare and the spotlight, and how in that kind of fishbowl, and in many ways it is like people, when you become New York Times famous, that's a different beast. We're finding in some of the conversations I've had with people that that glare can kind of distort and distract
I
from the
think
mission.
that's a great way to put it, because, like I said, I don't want to sound too harsh on it, because I don't know how many people could. You're not really trained in life to handle that. When all of a sudden fame, and yeah, because like they opened, they got some Michelin stars, and they put out a cookbook, and they did all these things, and it's just it was interesting. But I did like I did so I ended up leaving there, and I was ready at the time to, we were deciding to open, if I was going to open a place in New York, and I decided not to at the time, and I tried my hand at some consultant work of helping people open places.
Ah.
And that was more to get experience, honestly.
Okay. No,
It was
absolutely.
kind of a conscious thing. Like by that point, I knew I wanted to open a place. Not sure where yet, but kind of was taking notes and spending a lot of time in New York just doing research at different restaurants and places and what I liked and what I didn't like. And I think the spotlight aspect of Roberta's had an impact on me down the road in terms of not trying to like glorify what like that. I don't like, it's hard to articulate, but I decided not to do the my own space right away because I didn't feel ready, and I think I needed a little more just kind of almost what not to do.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I felt comfortable of what to do, but I think just navigating the waters, and New York City is such a huge huge place, and it's there's 20,000 restaurants, and the joke is 18,000 or 19,800 of them are bad. So it was
Wow. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it was kind of like going around. So I decided to spend some time kind of going around places, like seeing what not to do. Like, oh, maybe this place just opened. Let me go see what I think of it. And it's all just my opinions. It's not like I'm a pro yet. It was just kind of explore, using New York to explore and learn, almost like going to school or something. And so that I was fortunate to live there for however long we lived there, to kind of have that place to learn and grow and see and soak in some knowledge.
Mhm.
And again, that sounds kind of corny, but it's true.
But it's not
uh,
corny. No, it's absolutely not corny. It's like you can't. I always say it's one of those situations where it's you got to learn it from somewhere. It's either it's going to be this formalized process or it's going to be experience.
right.
I mean, I love wearing that teacher's hat. I'm like, oh, let me, because that's what I have to tell the kids. I would tell my students all the time, like, oh, you got to pick one. Both are valid, but the experiences, you got to pay attention in the experience as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, it's funny.
See where you sit in it, by the way. But
No, it's funny you say that, because in the chef biz, in the chef world, a lot of, or even in the bar world in New York, was a lot of this. You have to have experience to get the job, but you can't get the job without experience, like, so there's a ton of that. And so, which I was just thought was funny. So when I ended up, after Roberta's, I ended up managing a couple of places that I got to through my consultant work, but one of them was called Alameda, which was a little cafe in Greenpoint, and they have now reopened. They're still there. They're now called El Pinguino Restaurant. But I would purposely, New York was such a transient place, or, new people coming in every day. I would always hire people that had just moved there, that had maybe bartended in, a place like Dayton or Cincinnati, and they moved to New York. And if I was hiring and I interview someone like that, I would, if, I wouldn't hire them just because of that, but if they fit the bill and everything. And it was always interesting to me because it was exciting to see them kind of cut their teeth in the New York environment, and the reason that's important, I say, is because I looked at it as giving someone an opportunity, because a lot of other places wouldn't hire a bartender that didn't have, 2 to 3 years of New York bartending experience.
wow.
And I always thought that was strange, because I'm like, you realize other cities aren't like, there's qualified people from other places. Like it doesn't,
By the FYI,
and
they
like
do.
to me, like sometimes the jaded New York bartender wasn't the skill wise, it's what I wanted, but not personality wise. And
Hmm.
I've always said you can train someone to make a cocktail, but you can't train them to be nice or welcoming or warm. That's a trait that you kind of either have or you don't, but it's not teachable really. And so I was never really concerned as much with skill set as I was with personality or
Wow. Or that, or demeanor. I mean, that sort of,
demeanor is a great word. Yeah.
well, no, I mean, yeah, it's something. It happens in the other art forms. I mean, it was so funny because someone said there was a a program that I did, and I was hired as a dance captain, but they were auditioning dancers, and this girl was a half a beat behind everybody else. But the person in charge was like, I really like her because she's having a good time, even though she's half a beat behind.
Right.
Like I could rehearse her to get on the beat.
Yeah, we can get you there, but yeah.
Yeah, but you can't,
we can't make you seem like you're genuinely having a good time. Like,
right, and nice, and she was
right.
pleasant and lovely, and she turned out to be actually a really good friend after that, because we're getting to know her, because it was like, yeah, so I think it's one of those things that we think, and that's what I love about doing this podcast, and I'm trying to help people understand that the different worlds that people inhabit and what they're in, their creativity and what they're passionate about, they're life lessons for every place else. Like you just don't, you need to pay attention. Like,
yeah, they all cross over, right? Like, I think, it's interesting. Like, what, I don't know, what in the dance world, what would you like immediately draw from? Like skill, like other than the skill of dancing, is it like the show must go on? Is it like movies or poetry? Is this a dumb question? I don't know.
No, it's not. No. I mean, you draw from a lot of different things, but you also you kind of do draw from your own personal experience a little bit, like your own personal. But you also, it's like this interesting sort of tenacity. Like, if we can't get the choreography down, no one has to tell us that you're not getting it down. We know that we're not getting it down, so we're going to stay in that room until we get it down.
Gotcha.
And then we're exhausted and tired, kind of cranky, but we know we have to get it done. And it's like, so we'll sacrifice it. We'll be, sweat out your clothes, you're hungry, you're cramping up, and but you're still going to keep, let's turn the music on. Let's go. Let's do it again. Again. And we're all similar in that sort. So it's kind of this weird, for a long time, I used to think it was masochistic that we were.
It probably borderline is, but that's okay, right?
It's all good. It got me somewhere. I mean,
yeah,
it was. So I'm okay with that. So I mean, that's the thing. Do you think about, and you talk about like the you can't teach someone to be nice and kind, and I loved it because one of the things is you said something is really interesting in an article that I read. You said the bottom line, everyone is welcome, and that's something that it's like a philosophy. Like, so you have a philosophy. So what is it? It's like you said, you gained the experience to learn not just about what to do, but really it was about what not to do. And was it the majority of it was like that people didn't make the experience welcoming in their restaurants?
I think a lot of times, so everyone is welcome is easier said than done, right? It's a little, you can build a place, and it's like similar to you said, it's going to draw from my own personal experiences, and it's either going to resonate with some people or not. What I mean is everyone is welcome is like, I've seen so many restaurants come and go that either the staff alienates people for whatever reason, or if they're super nice cocktail bars, they won't make a drink how you want it because they're too snobby to do that. Or I've seen restaurants not substitute something for like a vegan guest or an allergy. That's changing a little bit now, but
wow,
20 years ago there was, in fact, I had a friend in New York, and he was a chef. He had his own restaurant, and it was in a period when chefs were like, no substitutions, no modifications. This is my dish and how I want it. And I hated that because I'm like, I'm more like, you're coming to my house, I want to cook for you, then this is my dish, you're going to eat it. But I had this chef friend, and he said, as kind of a screw you to those other chefs, on the bottom of his menu, he just wrote, "Substitutions are encouraged. I need to make sure my chefs can cook." And I loved that. And it was
I
just,
love it too. That's
it
a
was,
great.
it was like a little joke, it wasn't really telling you to do that, but the message was received, and he had a little bit of notoriety at the time, and it was kind of a cool thing. So I think that mentality is changing, but the everyone is welcome thing is like, I can't, that doesn't mean I can break out some food I don't have and cook it for you to make you feel welcome, but
Absolutely.
I'm going to adapt. It's about, your experience is about you being here, not us being here. And I think there's a lot of restaurants that exist that think that the experience is about the restaurant. It actually, I can equate it to music, and
Oh yeah.
I have this like pretty decent analogy. I think what I've always liked about the punk scene and the punk music we played is the audience was as much of the performance as the band was. Where if you go to, maybe like a different type of show, the audience is just kind of watching
Passively,
or even if they're singing along every lyric or something, the band is just up there doing what they're doing. And, in a punk show, they're getting on the stage and stage diving and singing along, and the singer's coming out in the crowd. And so my analogy is always like, I think in a restaurant or a bar that the people in the bar or the restaurant should be part of what's going on as well, not just sitting there eating or dining, and so including them into the conversation, like when you're behind the bar talking to your coworker about what you did last week, I'd rather share those experiences with the people sitting at the bar, hear what they did last week, than just us talking back there. And so that's always been important to me, I guess, basically, is just like including the clientele on the whole experience, and that's hard when you're super busy and everything, but still, like at Longfellow, everybody that walks in, hey, here's a menu, no matter how busy it is, just so they're not like confused as to where to go or where to sit or what to do. And I don't know, I think that's more what I mean, is everyone is welcome, is make it as welcoming to everyone that walks through your doors you can. You can't do that for everybody, but
right? Because they're not open to it. So it's not like
right.
it's not on you guys. It's not on Longfellow, so it's not on you. But I love that as a philosophy. And so now you're like, what got you to Cincinnati? I'm just kind of curious. Like, if you're
Okay, so
like you're in New York. I mean, let's be very clear. The phrase is, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. If we're going to use music as a kind of a guidepost.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that's a tricky question. Shale and I were doing well there and living there, and we started realizing every weekend we were going upstate, doing the outdoorsy thing or something like that. And we're just realizing we wanted to kind of spend less and less time exploring the city on our days off. And then it was getting more expensive. I kind of got tired of this, and it could have been more me, but there was this sense of everybody felt like they were trying to outdo each other rather than, like, at least in my community, felt like everybody was trying to outdo each other rather than kind of help each other or work together. There was this weird sense of like self-inflated behavior going on in my immediate industry and scene. And I kind of got tired of that. And it probably exists everywhere. So that was maybe a little naive on my part, but those are just human beings doing their thing. But we decided that Cincinnati, since she grew up here and I'd been coming here on and off for 20 years, that it might be worth doing. You could buy a house here, start a business, have a kid. We used to say you could have a kid, buy a business, or start a business or buy a house. In New York, you could probably do one of those things. And in a place like Cincinnati, you could probably do all three of those things. And so we started looking, and my immediate goal. By that time, I knew that I was going to open a place. And so prior to moving here, I was coming here and staying with my in-laws and trying to meet people and make connections. And so the process had started of me opening what is now Longfellow, and it was difficult. So I'd had all this experience.
I mean, you know, you were talking about what drove you to Cincinnati, and you're like, this conversation is, and it's absolutely true about the Midwest. It is like you could do all three. Like,
Yeah.
I could dance here and live in a house and not live in a shoebox with 12 other people. I mean,
And there's something to be said to that, because, you know, it's the whole, I think, you know, when I was in New York and I was like, yeah, I'm moving to Cincinnati. They're like, oh man, we thought you were like a lifer, you know? And I was like, yeah, but can you, I just kind of I didn't want to have to scratch and claw, you know. And now I think, I had a good deal at the time. I think we rented like a 2-bedroom for $2,200. And I think now that same apartment's going for like 3700,
whoa,
which is crazy.
that is insane.
Crazy to me. And then, so, you know, the Midwest, Cincinnati in general, just because we had a family connection here, and the food scene here was good at the time. You know, this is 9 years ago, but it's grown a lot, but it was, even at the time, it was still pretty good. And so, yeah, I was coming out here frequently to try to, you know, find a place to do it, find some investors. And I was saying I'd had the new lesson I learned that was hard for me. It was the hardest thing was, so I had all this restaurant experience and building it, all this stuff I've talked about. It came time to ask people for money, to like, here's my pitch, you know, here's what I need, here's what I'm doing.
Okay.
And that was incredibly hard for me. I grew up like, I'd say lower middle class. So not like poor or anything, but not from money. And was trying to do Longfellow on a lower end budget, and part of that using my know-how, but still asking complete strangers to give you money for something that you believe in and you know that you're going to pull off. They have no idea, you know. And so I had to, you know, my little package put together, and my New York Times article and all this stuff, all this press that I'd gotten put together, and I'm showing it to them. And I was lucky, right place, right time. You know, restaurants were doing pretty well. This was 2016, 17, and Cincinnati restaurants were doing well. And like, I had one guy that someone connected me with, and he was like, because, you know, restaurants are notoriously a bad investment.
Right.
But he was like, well, the stock market's not doing too well, and it seems like restaurants in downtown Cincinnati are. So he gave me money based on that alone, which I was like, all right, this is crazy. He didn't even really look at my stuff. I was just like, okay. It was just that was a tough thing for me, though, honestly, like getting
that ask.
Just getting in a room and being like, can I have your money to do something I want to do with it? And you might not get it back. And that was, you know, but it was so, because of, I also created an investment plan for Longfellow where I didn't want to have any partners, for better or for worse. And so the people investing in Longfellow, I was paying them back just money at a higher rate. They had no kind of profit share, any control. You know, I'd worked at restaurants where some investor would come and be like, you have to put my grandmother's potato salad on the menu. You have to. I have enough say to where you do that. And so I specifically kind of engineered my startup plan to not have to deal with that. And it worked out. And luckily, Longfellow, we got open, we did it well, and I paid all my investors back in the second year. And
wow, that's impressive.
It was just, I think I am proud of that, but I think it was also such a goal of mine, a focus to like because it was so hard to ask for that money, to show them that I would follow through, and not only that, be successful. And we also were just lucky, and it was great. And my staff is responsible for 98% of that, and it's not just me, it's the whole deal. And we hit a right thing at a right time kind of deal, which is what everybody says, but maybe everyone just feels that way, but it felt that way to me. And so I was proud of that. We paid everybody back, and then Longfellow was established in Cincinnati. We were established in Cincinnati. It was really fun. The first couple years, and we live in Northside, a neighborhood called Northside, and that was fun. And
I'm learning Cincinnati, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm learning. I'm up here in Dayton. I mean, so it's like one of those things. Yeah. So it feels good. It feels good. It feels right. And that's the vibe that Nadia when Nadia, our producer, talked about. She said the vibe matches exactly what he's talking about in all the articles that we've read. And it's rare to meet someone who embodies the vibe that they're putting into what it is they're doing. Because a lot of times not that I'm some creaky old man, but I am close to, I am 60, and it is, the joints are aching, but you just, sometimes there's a disconnect, but there doesn't seem to be a disconnect, and we've just met. So this is just me, armchair psychiatrist or something. I don't know what that is, but I just feel like you embody what I look forward to my experience in Longfellow, and I look forward to going to Mid-City. So,
well, thank you. Well, yeah, I think maybe to my detriment, I don't know if I could do a restaurant or something just to do it without it being a passion project sounds too much, but without it meaning something to me. I don't think I could just open, like, here's an eatery, let's make some money. I think that's why, like, you brought up Tony and Pete's. I think that's why they're so good and successful. Knowing those two people, I know the amount of love and care and family ties they've put into that place, and I think it translates. And I think that I'm lucky to. That's what I was saying in the beginning, is just falling into this business for other reasons, and then realizing somewhere you're passionate about it is probably the part of it that you can't plan, and it's helped me along the way. And I don't think I could ever just phone it in. Having said that, it's just selling beer. It's not like it's, what I mean? It's so much more. I don't want to get too inflated about it. We are still just.
Yeah.
We're making drinks. We're making drinks cold and food hot. That's all it is at the end of the day. But
end of the day, but isn't that the case of anything that we do?
Sure.
It's like it's like, you could say the same thing about a dancer. You could say, it's basically tights and tutus and she's a bird. I mean, it's like Swan Lake.
But your art form can bring people to tears and emotions, and that's all. I was just trying to make.
Oh no, but the thing is, I'm going to say this: food and drink can bring us to joy.
Sure, and I like that. And
that's in short supply these days. Let me tell you.
I'll take that. I just think. Okay. I was just saying, like, I think there's in the restaurant world. I think the ones that don't click with you maybe are just because it's, again, those people that opened it thinking it would be a fun thing or it's profitable for some reason, and places like Longfellow and Tony and Pete's and a million others, there's some heart and soul behind it and some care. I mean, just the small, and I'm proud of Longfellow because you see all walks of life there, all creeds, all races, everything. It's in a place where we've worked hard to be a neighbor. There's the gentrification discussion of OTR, and nowhere in there did I just want to show up and be this place, and so we just kept it low key for a long time, and it worked out in our favor. And the Longfellow has kind of three lives throughout its night. So on an average night, you kind of get this regulars after work crowd, and then from like later on in the evening, you get kind of people checking it out for the first time, out of towners, or people waiting for their dinner reservations. And then it kind of switches back into this regular crowd. And then late night, we get a lot of the restaurant industry crowd of Cincinnati. And so I also kind of liked it over the night. It kind of is evolving. It's not just, the same grumpy people in the corner of the bar judging everyone that walks in. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just back on the everybody's welcome thing. I think that's kind of speaks to that a little bit in a way that I'm proud of. And I think our staff is proud. We also do great food, not to leave that out, but we don't have a full kitchen, but we do what we can with what we have. And it's pretty good. So
it's pretty good. So I've enjoyed this conversation. I know it's been, and full disclosure, everyone, we've had some technical issues and we stopped and started, but the conversation has been rich and good. And so the question I always ask, because it is about being inspired, is what would you tell someone who wants to enter this industry, this business? What would you like? A piece of advice would you give them that you didn't share earlier?
Do you mean like owning the ownership aspect?
Anything, yeah.
Or just like a young person getting into it?
Well, I would say this because I feel like a lot of young people are chomping at the bits to be the leaders of their own, captains of their own destiny.
Sure.
So what would be the advice to them if they want to be the captains of their destiny?
My advice is that due to, I would say, television, the popularity of, chef culture and restaurant culture on television now has really helped and hurt us. It leads you to think that it is this kind of glamorous and fun job, which it can be. But what the television shows don't show you a lot is how rewarding it is. And so if you are pursuing this career, just make sure that you're ready. It's not all fun all the time, but if you realize that you like it, it is very rewarding, and it can lead you to places you never thought you'd go, like Cincinnati or New York City, or, owning your own business with people that care about you and have your back, and I think just bottom line is get into this business because you like it, not because it looks fun and glamorous. I don't know if that is helpful, but
that is totally helpful.
That's probably every job on the planet, but
but especially your job and my job, and the thing. I mean, people talk about television being glamorous, and
it's work, right? It's hard work.
It's work. This is not I mean, I am not even 90 days into full time with the station, but with them for 10 years as online as an on-air host.
Yeah.
I stumbled into this. This wasn't me going, I want to do this. No. I was content to be a teacher and choreographer and just be an artist and make my stuff. And so it's changed my life. But
you're good at it, so that's good.
I appreciate that, man. I will take a compliment in a heartbeat because I'm like, I am learning as I go. And so, but what I love about that is like, you are just so authentically sincere about you and thoughtful about what you've said, and I've enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
I'm holding you to the Tony and Pete's invitation that we go to Tony and Pete's to get a sandwich.
Sure, I need to go.
We absolutely hit us up. It will be the best time.
I will. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And everyone, check out Longfellow and Mid City. I mean, there's cool places in Cincinnati. Don't fall asleep on Southwest Ohio, and you make it a place not to fall asleep on. So thank you, Mike, for what you do.
Thank you for having me.